In South Africa, employment conditions remain exceedingly weak, suggesting that the prospect of an improvement in permanent jobs is a long way off. That is the view of Adcorp, which released its employment index for the month of August today. Joining me now on the desk is Loane Sharp. He is an analyst at Adcorp. Two numbers that I took out of there, Loane. Two key messages. One, the ballooning public sector, and the second message I took out of there was exceedingly weak. Let's begin at exceedingly weak, because that is the bigger, broader picture that is very, very, very gloomy indeed.
Yes.
Where is that coming from?
Well, there are two pictures that emerge from the employment data, and the one relates to permanent jobs and the other one relates to temporary jobs. And temporary jobs are very interesting because they're much more closely connected to the economy. Permanent jobs are subject to lots of legislative and regulatory issues, and they tend to lag behind the economy for 24, even 36 months at times. Now, temporary jobs, which we've been looking at, companies have been utilizing their temp workforces to a much smaller degree. In fact, it's been declining for about the last 9 months, if you take out some anomalies. So the production sector of the economy is exceedingly weak. The consumer is perhaps a different story, but sectors like mining, manufacturing and construction, they've reduced their workforces during August to a substantial degree. The economy lost about 50,000 jobs in August alone, and we're not expecting that situation to improve. In fact, we're looking for a total of about 400,000 job losses through to the end of 2012.
Right. But on the other side of the equation, we've got the government creating employment. In fact, your numbers show that we got a 6.2% increase.
Yes. This is a trend, in fact, of the last year and a half, where all of the job creation that has occurred in the economy has been in the government sector. I'm worried about that because it has fiscal implications. But more importantly, government jobs are not jobs in the real sense because they're funded by the taxpayer and not by the private sector. So there are implications for the government's wage bill. There are implications for unionization levels within government. And there are implications really for the long-term health of the economy. So it's not a positive picture at all, government job creation.
When you say unionization within government, do you mean that in a negative or positive sense?
Well, I think the more that government employs, the more unionization there is. We've been observing over the last 15 years a decline, a secular decline in private sector unionization and a continuous rise in government sector unionization. So unionization of the government sector leads to longer strike seasons, more uncertainty in production, pressure for Eskom and other utilities to unionize and go out on strike. So it's definitely a negative for the economy, government job creation from a union point of view.
Right. Let's look at the numbers in detail. We had manufacturing down 19.9%, mining down 19.3%, and construction, not surprisingly, down 16%. But a smaller drop compared to the other two sectors. Would you then begin to think that there has been a turnaround going on in the construction sector?
I don't think so at all. In fact, this is the weakest performance from those three sectors in about 18 months. I think, you know, before businesses grow their employment figures, lots of preconditions need to be met. There needs to be security around, certainty around the domestic economic situation. There needs to be high and sustained economic growth, really the opposite of what is occurring in the environment today. There's enormous uncertainty from the production sector around the sustainability of not only local but global economic performance. So, yeah, workforces, I think these figures are high. I mean, the declines have been significant during August, but it really reinforces a trend we've been observing for some time.
But would that be because of the strike season?
Well, strikes have played a role. I mean, you know, strikes... at the height of strikes during apartheid, just for example, of rolling mass action in the late 1980s, South Africa lost about 9 million workdays due to strikes. This year we will lose about 18 million, 17.8 million workdays due to strikes. So the level of conflict and uncertainty in employer relations in South Africa has doubled in the post-apartheid period. So that's wreaked havoc with our production systems, our distribution systems, and it's put major strain on producers. Certainly our manufacturers have lost competitiveness due to strikes.
Sure.
Foreign companies cancel work orders very quickly if they perceive disruptions of supply.
Now, one of the surprises for me is the mining sector. Manufacturing we can sort of understand because we've seen the issues play out. But on the mining side, we've got commodity prices at high levels. I mean, gold is at a record or near record. Platinum is close to there. And you also have oil quite high. Why are we seeing pressure on the mining sector at a time? So the mining sector is losing jobs at a time when you've got these high commodity prices.
Well, I think mining companies generally are taking the opportunity of high gold prices, high metal prices generally, to reduce their workforces. You know, a mine works in a different way to most organizations. They simply take prices as a given and produce the maximum amount that they can. But in the current circumstances with strikes, I think the mining companies have taken the opportunity to reduce their workforces. So we have a bizarre situation, as you pointed out, of the best levels of international commodity prices in many years and the worst employment conditions in the sector. I think it's quite natural. I think we're going to see more job shedding and job destruction in the mining sector in the next few months.
I suppose the chickens will come home to roost when we see the unionized government employees taking on the government and playing it out between the two when the money is gone. Yes.
You know, I mean, strike season in South Africa used to be a 3 to 4 month period. It's currently an 8 to 10 month period every year. So strikes are really destructive to the economy. We've got to find some kind of solution to it. And certainly our Labour Relations Act is a good place to start because it encourages conflict between employers and employees. But so long as the Labour Relations Act remains in place, the level of unionisation, the level of strike activity is going to rise.
Absolutely. Loane Sharp, Labour analyst at Adcorp. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.